Alright, so I played the Space Wolves. We got Nyal, a Ruin Priest, 10 Blood Claws with a Terminator, Storm Shield, and not a Thunder Hammer though. That was just a sword. And then two squads of Grey Hunters with 2 Flamers and one Terminator as well. Those ones had axes, and then a full squad of long ranks with missile lifters. The thought process behind the list building was that I would be able to take out bigger guys with the long fangs and then try and absorb as much damage with the blood claws as possible, so that when the Grey Hunters got there, we could get work done.
And my list has been my standard low point Tyranid lists but I've added a few things to kind of see how they work. My list has the Tervigon with, I think it's like 20 or 16 Termagants now, and then I added in an Exocrine, which is, in my opinion, those things print money. And then I ended up putting in a unit of 20 or 16 Gene Stealers just to see how they do walking across the table. And then I brought a unit of Venom Thropes to kind of keep the infantry just a little bit more safe, just add another level of protection. So the scenario we got in this one was, I believe it was Big Guns Never Tire.
No, it was one of the R ones, not Relic.
Retrieval
Retrieval
mission or something.
Yeah.
At any rate, John put down 2 objectives, which you can see in orange on his side of the table, and then I put down my 2 objectives. One of them's in the forest that's currently the residence of the Gene Stealers and Termagants right now. It's one of the white circles. And then the other orange one, if you look at the top of the screen by my Broodlord, you can see that the other orange objective is by that plank system that I've got set up over there. So if you're triggered by unpainted stuff, this is probably the perfect video for you to watch. I think we have like the top of that bunker's painted, and so is that hill, but I'm working. Oh, there's a rock that's painted too, so that's worth it.
Oh, that's true.
So for deployment, I like talking about counter deployment at this point level seems kind of weird. I almost feel like I just want to put my stuff where it'll fit, like especially with Synapse, like I have to kind of make sure that my stuff stays in range there. So my deployments are a little bit more formulaic than they are reactionary, and especially when you're playing against such a symmetrical list like John's, where it's just, blood claws, and Grey Hunters. I just kind of put stuff in front of his and hope it does, or hope it kills things. It's not overly complex. Maybe that's just a Tyranid problem that I'm having right now.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna counter deploy, and he left his Gene Stealers for last, which was the main thing I cared about, trying to counter deploy. And when I realized he was gonna leave them for last, I'm just like, all right, well, the Blood Claws go straight up the board. They'll block line of sight, or not line of sight, but they'll block the charge lanes to one of the Grey Hunter squads. Other Grey Hunter squad will go threaten my objective or his objective. He's got to deploy something over there, otherwise I get 2 objectives.
Well, and maybe it's just me these days, but I'm also a recovering Space Wolf player, and the Blood Claws almost feel like they're more valuable to me than the Grey Hunters are, but I guess I just haven't been able to be on the giving end of the rapid fire bolter shots.
Yeah, the rapid fire bolter shots with the flamers. So far this edition has just been straight money for me. Getting charged and then getting off like 10 shots in Overwatch is just something that the enemy hasn't been expecting so far.
So here's something to gloat about. The Venom Thropes, they have the rule for their little cloud cover. It basically gives your opponent -1 to hit when they're shooting at you if the unit is within 6 inches of a Venom Thrope. Now, my origins as far as a wargamer are in 5th edition 40k, but for the bulk of my competitive wargaming career, I played War Machine. So buffs are usually like the unit has to be within a certain area if you're doing control things like on feats and stuff. So being in 40k now, where the unit is affected by something with a 6-inch bubble, if one dude from that unit is in coherency and in that bubble, is like super legit for me. So my Venom Thropes have just kind of made a daisy chain around the butt of the Tervigon to keep my Termagants in and my Gene Stealers. So they're all neg-1 to hit right now, which is, in my opinion, super powerful.
It was very obnoxious for me. Going from 3s to 4s was tragic.
And the strange thing, I'm sure that the internet, or like the, I'm sorry for the camera movement. I think we're kind of free forming it here, so it's moved a little. So if it'll be hard, but you'll have to bear with us. At any rate, the model that I'm most interested in terms of Forge World stuff, because I honestly, the Pyrophant just seemed like butt to me. And the Dimacaron might be cool if he didn't look like... the model looks dumb, in my opinion. I just don't like it. The long leg thing isn't cool to me. The Barbed Hierodule and Scythe Hierodule look cool. And I want to look at the Harridan because I think it's probably the better looking model in Forge World. But the one, like I said, the one that I'm super crazy about right now is the Malanthrope. And I'm sure this has to be some kind of typo or something on Forge World's part, but they have the same rule as the Venom Thropes do, except the Venom Thropes only give the neg-1 to hit against infantry, whereas the Malanthrope doesn't have that stipulation. So putting a Malanthrope in the list that's a character and a Synapse creature is extremely valuable for giving my Tervigon and my Exocrine neg-1 against being hit. Like, he's really legit. He's only 90 points also. Something's got to change with that because I think it's really good, and I'm definitely looking at taking one of my Carnifexes and turning it into a Malanthrope, but I don't know, I might just pick up the model and say fuck it. But the ability for neg-1 to hit's really huge.
It was, like I said earlier, that was the bane of my existence for all of my shooting. It was tragic. And a second ago, you watched me with my Grey Hunters. I was trying to position so that you'd have to get really good rolls to get up on the board on me. And I like pre-measuring in this edition. It is quite enjoyable.
Well, I think you were able to pre-measure in 6th, if I'm not mistaken.
I only played a few games of 6th. My primary playtime was in 5th edition.
Yeah, where you just had to guess. Or you played long things and you didn't care.
That's fair. Yeah, pretty much. Which long fangs this edition so far have been ineffective in every game I've used them in.
I think you just give them a little bit more time. Maybe they'll grow on you, but
I'm thinking about switching from missiles to something else, but missiles are what I have magnetized, so
yeah.
Missiles are what they keep until I get unlazy and put like las cannons or something on them.
I liked my old formula of 4 or 3 or 4 rockets and 1 lance cannon. That was always legit. And now, like, I mean, they could split their fire before, but now they split it in a more unique way. So I think that's still pretty legit. Being able to split your fire in general is cool.
Yeah, that's actually a really cool improvement for this edition. And then what they picked up instead is being able to reroll 1s to hit.
That's nice.
Only on a preferred target. So at the beginning of their shooting, they pick something and they get to reroll 1s to hit on that guy or that unit.
Gotcha. So then this is just some side commentary, because like games of 40k in early turns aren't very exciting, especially when we're both new at getting into this again, so we're living in our rule books a little bit. But at these low points, I think we played 1,000 points in this game, even though it didn't feel like 1,000 to me. But I've got 2 models that cost almost 250 a piece. But my experience has been at point games under 1,000, I'm just not caring about the scenario.
Yeah, it's been you table your opponent or you get tabled so far. There's been no middle ground.
I had one game against an Eldar player in our slow grow league in Baraboo, and that one, it ended up coming down to the wire, especially on scenario points. But the reason why it was down to the wire is he had one model on an objective, and it was the only model in his army. So I ended up tabling him and not worrying about the scenario, like, because of that.
Yeah. And I think I was casting. What we were just looking up is spells. Getting reacquainted with the spells that I've got available is something that I have to do.
Yeah, it's not just Herp Derp Jaws anymore.
Herp Derp Jaws. It was really good when it was.
Yeah, I still think that it's a really good spell. Into Tyranids, it kind of has flip-flopped its efficacy because the Tyranid movement value is so high.
All over the place.
I like when people play across from me, and we do have a lot of players that the bulk of their play was in 5th edition along with myself and John. But that was back when Tyranid dudes were moving 4 and 5 inches. And now when you see the Tervigon move 8 inches on turn 1 with not advancing, that's some heartbreaking shit.
That's exactly what happened, and I'm like, what do you mean do you always get to move 8? I thought you advanced.
He does have his movement is tied to his degradation chart, so it doesn't get much lower, though. I think it goes from 8 to 6 to 4.
Yeah, and by the time you're at 4, if I were to Jaws you, I'd expect you off the board anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's when he's at his 2 or 3 wound mark.
Yeah.
So, but he has 13 wounds total, so it takes a while to get there. But that Jaws is still pretty nasty against those, like, movement 6 guys, because on average you're taking 1 wound. But any spikes in those dice are pretty good, especially with command points. If you, like, asymmetrically roll a 7,
yeah,
you can always reroll that 2 or 1. You know, it seems pretty good.
So far, they just keep rolling into either lower or the same so far for me. I don't know if this edition I've had a command point come out better.
Command points in this edition are legit too. They seem to be lifesavers.
They make very interesting. They make for very interesting list building because for example, in this game, I ended up filling out the whatever the +3 one is for
but the battalion one where you get like 2 HQs and
yeah. So I ended up filling out that one, so I had 6 control points. Whereas I think Brian, did you only have?
I'm still in patrol.
Yeah.
List.
So I had 3 more control or command points, and so I was able to be a little bit more liberal with my rerolls.
So this was a super legit moment. I've been trying to figure out with. I was slapping my tape measure down to see, like, what do I have to roll to make the charge on these blood claws that have moved up. The Gene Stealers are movement 7 or 8 now. I think it's 8. And I needed a decent advance, so I ended up cracking a 5. And yep, it was a 5 because I walked 13 inches on my turn 1, so bottom of 1.
And I was beyond surprised. I'm just like, oh.
And with how far John advanced his blood claws that turn, I ended up being about 8 inches away from them. 8 or 9 inches, because I think you needed
an 8.
So the Broodlord's been able to tuck in behind them. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any way he's going to be able to get them into his bubble of, I think it's reroll 1s. But he's also a nice, like, follow-up piece because he's kind of a bully himself. He can really lay down some hurt. So the line of sight blocking train that's in the middle, I think it's I want to say it's a Micro Art Studios MDF building, or maybe some other company that I found on eBay. But it's big enough to block the Tervigon, so the Long Fangs can't see it.
I could not see it anymore. So
it was legit for the time that he existed there. I'm able to tuck the Venom Thropes in to be able to keep the Gene Stealers in the bubble, but unfortunately for Overwatch it's unmodifiable, so I couldn't make it so no Overwatch hits.
Yeah.
Now, one of my hopes and goals here is to get a second camera to kind of cover the rest of the battlefield, and behind that building you've got the problem of my Termagants are there, and they also made a pretty righteous advance.
They made a nuts advance. I think you rolled a 6 for them.
So they were walking 12 inches to get up, and they're right by the crates. There is
my entire army.
Yeah, Niall is there.
My
a unit
Rune
of Grey
Priest.
Knights and the Rune Priest just chilling out. Now,
And my Blood Claws. Like
Yeah,
my
there's
whole army was there, minus the the Grey Hunters you can see there,
I forgot
and
there
the
was a unit
long
of Grey
things that you can
Hunters.
see right there.
Yeah, the unit of Grey Hunters or Blood Claws, I think, have faded behind the building as well.
They're a little bit more far forward.
There's some action going there.
And what you just witnessed was Brian failing his, or Brian would make a check, and then y'all gets +1 to deny the witch.
Yeah, we went to the psychic phase here, and I wanted a couple things to happen. First, I wanted to get Catalyst onto the Gene Stealers, so the Turvagon cast it and did not get it. Then the Broodlord decided, I think it was maybe the Broodlord cast Catalyst. One of them, I can't remember how their spells were set up, but the other one cast Onslaught on the Termagants because I wanted them to be able to shoot and charge still. And both of them got denied.
Yep.
I think I rolled a 6 and a 7, and Niall and the Rune Priest just shut them right down. So it was unfortunate. It's unfortunate that happened, just because the Termagants are probably they're the ones that I worry about the least in terms of like survivability, only because the Turvagon just kind of pumps them up quite a bit. You can kill them down to, if you kill the unit down to 6 in this list, or 6 or 8, I can still fuel it back up to full, because I don't think I was able to fit the full 20 in here. But I think now we're working on some overwatching.
Yep.
So the other unfortunate thing that happened in this, or I don't think it was Overwatch. I think it was the shots from the Termagants. Like, yeah, a couple of them got some shots in.
Oh yeah, because your Gants, you advanced with them so that you ended up now trying to shoot with them.
Yeah, I hit
but
on
you weren't able to
5s.
get the charge now.
Yep. And then the Turvagon shot into the Blood Claws that were there as well. And I think the reason why John picked up so many models here was that I'm gonna say foolishly put my Exocrine shots into the Blood Claws, just because I knew the Blood Claws have a decent melee output. So I didn't want to lose a lot of Termagants. I wanted to try and soften that up a little bit. Unfortunately, I feel like I might have gone into the wrong target.
Yeah, you
But
did.
I think I ended up leaving them with maybe 5 or 6 guys in the unit.
left. Yeah.
So now over here, the Gene Stealers declared their charge against the
Grey Hunters.
the Grey Hunters that are on the bottom edge of the screen, and the double flamer thing, that shit hurts. Like, the auto hit, I think on this one you ended up hitting with like 10.
Yeah, it was
or
like
something.
Yeah, it was 10, and then
Fortunately enough, I only had to save one of them because they didn't wound very well. So I did lose a guy. So now you see me flipping around with my dice here, and I needed an 8 to get in. And my first throw was a 5 and a 2. And then I spent my command point for the turn to re-roll the 2, and ended up getting a 2 again. So my Gene Stealers, which aren't very survivable, they got a 5-up invuln with toughness 4. They did not make it. So
No.
they're just chilling out. And I think the unfortunate side effect of this is that I pulled the backmost Gene Stealer,
yes, you did.
and that was the Gene Stealer that was in range of the Venom Throat bubble.
Yes, it was.
So now, not only have I screwed my charge, I've also lost my benefit to being an egg 1 to hit, and I've got a whole unit of rapid-firing Grey Hunters just foaming at the mouth to get these Gene Stealers off the table.
And you got yourself some flamers coming at you. And
Yeah.
then, since I was able to block Catalyst, the Termagants were unable to charge me. So I was able to...
You blocked Onslaught as the
I
one
blocked
that's...
Onslaught. The Termagants weren't able to then charge, so now the Blood Claws get to go in and do Blood Claw-y things.
Yep, and then if the Catalyst is the Feel No... like, new Feel No Pain, I ignore wounds on a 5-up. So that one I had tried to put on the Gene Stealers just to try and, like, give them some extra survivability, because I did think that the Termagants would really do a big number on the Blood Claws. And then, like I said, I knee-jerk reacted by putting my exocrine into the blood claws to soften those up a bit. But it looks like your Grey Hunters have kind of pushed up with them too into the void of places we can't see now.
That's exactly what they did. The Grey Hunters shot in, and
now we're psychicking.
That's exactly it. And I'm trying to figure out how am I going to remove
That was some water delivery.
that Turvagon, because that Turvagon is beefy.
Yeah, he's toughness 8 with 13 wounds, 14 wounds, one or the other, and he puts out a lot of damage too. I mean, he's strength 6 or 7. The big bag of M&Ms too. Don't mind them. Yeah. Then his monstrous scything talons, they do D6 damage. Even though he only gets 4 attacks with them, it's still a pretty big amount of damage that he can throw out there. Unfortunately, John doesn't have the targets that are really ripe for that kind of damage because it doesn't carry over.
Yeah.
So I think you smited a few times, and I tried to deny, but I think the denies... I got one of the denies off, I believe.
You did. You denied the... I was trying to make your Gene Stealers one less to hit because I was scared of them.
Yeah.
And you denied that right up.
Mm-hmm. Because the Brood Lord was close. Because your Rune Priest is kind of settled up in between the bunker and the building right there. So you just pointed to him. That's where the Rune Priest is sitting at. And Niall has meandered to the crates that are just above or below the orange objective that's on the hill.
Yep, Niall just wants to get some.
Yeah, not too much some though, because I think there's still enough stuff over there to make him not want to come up into...
Yeah, he wants to safely get some.
Yeah, because I think if I put that, if for some reason the Turvagon's able to put attacks into him, I think it just roasts it.
Oh yeah, no, Niall was set up so that you had to go through the Blood Claws and the Grey Hunters that are over there before you could target them.
We ended up, now the walkway that's over there, it does have like a big gap underneath it. Like it's basically like a catwalk essentially, with a small little landing pad. So we ended up, just for simplicity's sake, playing it as though you could not see through the undercarriage of it, I guess. So that was, we ended up having the table split up into a pretty crazy choke point in the middle, and that's kind of what's going on here, but it seems to be favoring John more so than me. There's a lot of shooting that's happening. These are Grey Hunters, or not Grey Hunters, Long Fangs.
Yeah, the Long Fangs flubbed everything.
Yeah, they were trying to put some shots into the exocrine, and they were not super successful with trying to make any shots. Like you saw that I didn't even roll any armor saves. They kind of shit the bed.
Yeah, the first 2 turns, maybe even 3 turns, I don't think they touched you.
There's one that
was it one?
made through.
Okay.
And 2. So it looks like yeah, because he's got 12 wounds and I took him down to 10.
That might have been Jaws onto him.
Oh, okay.
Because his speed is lower than that of the Turvagons.
It is. I think his is only 4.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we just did the Psychic Phase and I Jawsed him, because what else is y'all gonna do with that?
Yeah, your Psychic Phase takes a little bit longer than mine, because, like, the Rune Priest casts 1 spell a turn, right? 2 spells per turn, and then y'all cast 2 per turn.
Yep.
So, like, out of the 2 Psychers, you have 2 spells per turn, whereas with my 2 Psychers, I only get 1 spell per turn, which is not a huge deal for me, but that Rune Priest is a pretty efficient Psyker machine for the, what is it, like a little over 100 points?
No, like 80?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, like he's, for 80 points, he's pretty decent.
So now we've got all the dice coming out here for some bolter shots.
Yeah.
I think these are bolters and not bolt pistols, because you're counting them by 2s.
Actually, this is... Yeah, you're probably right.
Because your blood claws are nowhere near that strength to put out that many shots right now. So they're trying to soften up the termagants, I believe.
Yep.
Or these might be the ones that are going into the Gene Stealers also. The other thing I want to do is get a dice cam in here as well. And I'm sure as things progress, I'll change the angle so you don't have to look at our ugly, unkempt Sunday mugs.
Well, the side of my face.
I think this was a Sunday game, wasn't it?
Wednesday.
A Wednesday game, yeah. Okay. So it was we both were done working and we're just wanting to
Throw dice.
throw dice instead of throw computers at our windows.
Exactly.
So the Grey Hunter shooting is real here with putting down some hurt on these 5-up Gene Stealers. So let's see. I thought I lost like
All
5
but,
or
like,
6.
All but one.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, I took out all
So
but one.
that's there's the one dude hanging out back there. It's so bad.
On the Flamers, I think I rolled like a 5 and a 6 for like 11 auto points.
Yeah, that was some shit. So they lost that bubble for the Venom Thrope thing. I didn't pay attention to see how many would have been saved by that, and then not having Catalyst on them also really like boned over their survivability as well. It was not
Had you kept
a
the
pleasant
bubble,
experience.
a pretty good chunk of them would have been alive yet.
Yeah, Marines hitting on 4s is a big deal.
Yeah, and I rolled a lot of 3s this game.
Yeah. So now I think we've moved on to the unit in the middle shooting into the Termagants.
Yep. That was, you could see me right there. I think I was probably rolling Flamers.
Yeah, because you were
And I didn't roll very well.
Yeah, the Termagants. I don't think I lost much in the shooting phase. Never mind. I think I did lose a shit ton in the shooting phase.
You lost a pretty good number.
I think it was like 6 of them or something.
Yeah, and then I think the Blood Claws ended up shooting into them as well.
There's 8 of them.
Yeah.
And I'm still comfortable with 8 right now. I don't expect to get charged by both units. I only really expect to see the Blood Claws come into me. And with that, they still wound the Termagants pretty easily, but I've still got Overwatch with them, and they're close enough to the Tervagon to reroll 1s, which I probably forgot about in this game because I never remember.
I'm honestly not sure.
There's a lot of buffs in the Tyranid army. So, like, one of the things with the Tervagon is that he allows Termagants to reroll 1s in their shooting phase. Or not in their shooting phase, but when they're shooting. And that happens if they're within 8 inches of him. So if they're in Synapse, they're in that buff. So it's a pretty nice little thing for them, considering that they don't have a lot of ranged output. I mean, they're just range 12, strength 4, assault
guns.
1 guns.
And I think right there, I decided to do something really dumb with the Blood Claws, and instead of going into the Gants to make sure they die, I ended up going into the Tervagon with my charge. And for Overwatch, he rolled decently. I think he hit me 2 or 3 times. And one of the reasons I put the Terminator in here is so that I can kind of deflect wounds to him. And you just watch me roll 1 dice at a time to make sure that he didn't die from the attacks before we roll the next armor save. And he didn't. Yeah, I think he made it to the end. And then this is me taking the other squad of Grey Hunters into the remaining Gants. And I don't think Brian rolled too many. Like maybe 2, and I think I saved them.
Yeah, there wasn't much legit overwatching going on. As you see, the Grey Hunters are still in one piece, well and good. This is like probably my worst nightmare as far as like being in the Tyranid boat is right now. Like, I'm at 1,000 points. I've lost the bulk of my 2 jamming and work units. Like, the Gene Stealers, I had enough of them to where they got an extra attack when they go in. So with the 16 of them, they get 4 attacks each or 5 attacks each. So they would have, if they would have made it to that charge with the Grey Hunters, they would have just shredded that whole unit, especially with them having the neg 4 AP on 6s. It would have been really nice to be able to deliver them, and that's why you see like I won't say typical, because I think at this point in the edition there's no such thing as typical lists. There's a lot of variance in lists, and you can do a lot of different things with them to make them good. Like, I have so many ideas for Tyranid lists, but the only downfall I have is whenever I put Gene Stealers in the list, I feel like I have to have a Tervagon and a Swarm Lord. And
A Tervagon or a Trigon?
Or Trigon, sorry. A Trigon and a Swarm Lord, and sometimes, depending on how I'm feeling, a Tyrannocyte, so I can if you're not familiar with how this goes, it's really a good piece of advice to have if you end up playing against a Tyranid player or play competitively, because I think Tyranids are going to get to top tables. The Trigon has a deep strike system, essentially, called Subterranean Assault, where it just sets up within 9 inches of the enemy, or outside of 9 inches of an enemy model. And along with that, the Trigon can bring a unit of models. I think it's up to 20 models. So what you'll typically see is the Trigon pop up with 20 Gene Stealers. And then the reason why the Swarm Lord gets involved is the Swarm Lord has an ability called Hive Commander, where I think it's within 6 inches. During the shooting phase, he can make a Tyranid model or unit advance as though it were the movement phase. So I'm not 100% sure on the wording, but I'm pretty sure what it is they get to move their movement and then d6, or they just get to roll the d6. I'm not sure, but at any rate, the 9 inches that the Gene Stealers are away from you becomes very much less than that.
I mean, if it's just their base movement, the Gene Stealers are movement 8, right?
Yeah.
So now they are, what, just over an inch away?
They are either a d6 away from you or 1 inch away from you.
Yeah.
So, you do that with them, and then the Gene Stealers have the rule that says they can charge even if they advanced in a turn. It's just a base rule they have, so they don't even need a psychic spell to make that happen for them. So on turn 1, it's top of 1 or bottom of 1. This is all really still bad for you. You can get 50 to 60 attacks on the thing you love the most. And if you want, like, I think there was people have at least locally have talked about bubble wrapping, or bringing something like a knight or a titan to kind of make it so they can't chew through that. So bubble wrapping is only as effective as your placement is. So on turn 1, top of 1, if you want to bubble wrap your stuff, yeah, you can do it and make it so I can't charge you. But if I do have shooting in the list, I can try and peel some of that apart, or I just wait a turn.
It's not like wait a turn. You don't have to come in that turn.
I don't have to do it that turn. I can let you move up and do it from behind. The other bit is that with Rending Claws, if you roll a 6 to wound, it's neg 4 AP and 3 damage.
Just straight 3 damage?
Yep.
Wow.
So the damage I'm not 100% on. Like I said, I'm not romantically involved with the Tyranid rules. Like, they are the only faction I'm playing right now, but I am branching out into other rules. So John's turns passed. His Grey Hunters failed their charge, but it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I was expecting to fail that charge.
So what ended up happening is I just got the Broodlord up and my single Gene Stealer, and then I repositioned the Venom Thropes because the Blood Claws have kind of smashed through. The Blood Claws and Grey Hunters have smashed through the Termagants.
Yeah, they're gone.
That pile of dudes over there in the corner is all the dead ones, and I don't have a boat of 10 in the Termagant. Like, you can pay the points to get 10 dudes to pop out. I haven't brought that yet. It's at 1,000 you don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just hoping that the Broodlord and the 1 Gene Stealer can kind of clean up. So the psychic phase for me, I think, was just some smites.
Yeah, I stopped them all.
Yep. And
y'all +1 really good.
It is really good. Any modifier too. I think modifiers are the name of the game in 8th. Like, modifiers are where it's
and
at.
rerolls, because
and
Niall,
buffs, yeah.
Yeah, Niall gets +1 to deny the witch and a reroll.
So I ended up doing a dumb here, and I charged with my lone Gene Stealer first, and he did not make it with 2 flamers in that unit. Like, they effed him pretty hard. So then what I should have done was that the Broodlord's a bit more tanky in terms of, like, he's toughness 5, and he's got 5 wounds and a 5+ save. So I should have sent him in first. He doesn't have a degradation chart because he's not 10 wounds or more. So even at 1 wound, he's still as effective as he is at full health. So if I would have put him in and then brought the other Gene Stealer in, I probably could have got some more damage on these guys. I mean, it's not probably. I'm more likely than
Yeah.
not would have with 5 or 4 attacks.
And my dice exploded on his gene stealer that was alive, and then did nothing to the Broodlord when he came in.
I did crank the dice down once, so I think maybe you got a damage through on him, but it wasn't anything from a whole unit of rapid firing double flamer gray hunters. Like, it wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah, I thought I was safer than I was, and yeah, I think I did like 1 damage. I want to say I did like 3 or 4 hits with the flamers, and then I don't think I got any bolter shots.
Yeah, it was. I think the Venom Thrope might have been close. No, never mind. It's Overwatch. Doesn't matter. No,
Yeah.
I'm just being dumb. So, the Broodlord, I was really impressed with his combat output. He's got a decent amount of attacks. I think it's 5 or 6. He rerolls 1s to hit, and unfortunately, I rolled many 2s. No, he hits on 2s, so it doesn't matter. He rerolls everything. He rerolls his misses.
Yeah.
And then he also has Rending Claws, so on 6s they go through armor like crazy and do a ton of damage. With Grey Hunters, it didn't matter so much. He didn't rend any of them, so I think John pulled off, what, 4?
A few, yeah, or quite a few rather.
So the hope here was to get the Broodlord to kill the unit of Grey Hunters that he's tied up with, and then work his way around to that Rune Priest. And then the only issue is the Grey Hunter, or not the Grey Hunters. I keep wanting to call them Grey Hunters, but the Long Fangs that are on top of that bunker from Tectonic Craft Studios. It's a pretty nice piece. I like it a lot.
I like that bunker too.
It's even like the top comes off, so you can put dudes on the inside. But I haven't quite got that far. Unfortunately, I put the bunker in one of my like reusable grocery bags to bring to game night once, and then then used it as a footstool, and didn't realize I kind of broke it up a little bit. So no harm.
Still in really good shape considering that you footstooled it.
So that but those long things are going to be a pain in the butt. The Turvagon, I think that guy just kind of repositioned a little bit. No, either that or he's in the same spot. I can't remember.
I think he's in the same spot because you already engaged with those blood claws.
It feels like he moved a little bit. Maybe he did to get some dudes in or something. But at any rate, I think we're just going into the fight phase here, where you had the Venom Thropes tied up because we had some questions that came up in the game that I think we just kind of said, we'll just play it this way and then go over it later.
Make sure.
But you can like 100% consolidate into another combat.
And that's what I thought, and that's what I did with the blood claws that I had there, is during my reposition, or during your pile-in move, I was moderately far from the Turvagon, and so I just kind of I was about an inch away, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up going closer to him, and then getting base to base, but that also got one of the other dudes within an inch.
There is some interesting stuff about the piling into other combats, is that if you're in base-to-base contact with an enemy model when you're getting into the pile-in phase, and that base-to-base model you want to have them go into a new unit, you can't move them.
No, because you're already as close as you're going to be able to get.
Yeah, because the rules for consolidation or the pile-in say that you have to move closer to an enemy model, and when you're in base-to-base contact, you can't get closer to an enemy model. So you're kind of stuck in the water there. So I think if you're playing in an assaulty army, it's best to never get into base contact with something if you can't help it. Or if you can help it.
You should get to base with if you're playing a massive assaulty army, get to base with a couple of them to get more people in.
Sure, yeah.
But otherwise, you just have to be able to play like you're going into the Avatar of Menoth, and you just spiral around them.
Yeah, if you're
War Machine player, you'll get that.
If you're on 32s, I think they're just a little over an inch. But with 25s, you're under an inch, so you can pile like 3 ranks.
Yep.
Almost 4 if you position them right. I haven't done the math on I haven't visually constructed the math to see if you can go 4 ranks deep on a 25mm base, but I feel like you can, as far as being an inch away from someone who's within an inch, because your first rank will be within the inch, but the second rank, if you offset them into like the divots between the 2 bases, those will be an inch away from the target.
Yep.
So then you can go an inch from those guys, which will keep you the one or the third row of guys that are in their little divots.
Yeah.
And then from that divot in the base is you can be an inch from the fourth rank. So Hormagaunts can
It's gotta be close, yeah.
Yeah, Hormagaunts can get a shit ton of attacks into something if they're doing that.
We were in my psychic phase. I took off that Broodlord, if you've seen that. I believe I ended up rolling...
Go fuck yourself.
I believe I ended up rolling like an 11 on the smite check from that Ruin Priest, and I got D6 into him.
Yeah, I couldn't.
Real good.
I couldn't stop that. I was like, well, boxcars, and just nope. I think I rolled double ones
You
to
did.
boot
It
just
was-
to even add insult to injury.
It was pretty bad.
And then the D6 just shot him down. I was like, yep, I have nothing on that. So now the Grey Hunters are starting to pinch off the other side too. It's not looking good for the Tyranids right now. Venom Thropes, they do interesting things in combat, which is cool because they're mostly like the buff bots. However, they're interesting in combat is just that they get to swing first. So they don't have a lot of attacks, they don't hit well, they don't got great strength. I think they're 4s for everything.
I thought they did decent damage if they did hit, though.
I thought it was only 1, but I'm
did.
not 100% sure on that. I mostly care about them for their ability to give the neg 1 buff.
Yeah, I don't remember you actually hitting, so...
I don't remember hitting with them either. It's not surprising. The game is not kind to me right now.
It was not.
Even the Turvagon, I think, was only hitting with 1
Like
attack,
1 or 2
if that.
attacks, yeah.
You know, it wasn't it 2 attacks. I mean, it's statistically average, but on 4 dice, statistics are shit. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
I was in statistical hell as far as not being able to make my rolls properly, and I still think there were definitely some things that I hate blaming dice on games, and I'm not going to say, but the dice fucked me this game. There were definitely some things that I could have done, some positioning that I could have utilized to make this work better for me. If I were to look at the game look at the charge with those Gene Stealers, like you see 2 Venom Thropes go there, they're just not holding their own. If I move the Gene Stealers over a little bit more and realize that I can try and collapse the bottom flank with only the 1 unit of Grey Hunters over there with that huge piece of terrain in the middle, I can also pull my Turvagon over that way too. Now, the chances of him being able to be lit up by the Long Fangs is a lot higher, but he does have 13 wounds at a 3+ save, so I could Catalyst myself and hope that I can survive long with that.
Yeah, and the Long Fangs did so much for me this game that you left them alone until like turn 4. Like, they're still there, you can see them, they're all still there.
Yeah, the Exocrine and the Long Fangs are kind of having this weird standoff where the Long Fangs are like, kill that big thing with the gun, and the big thing with the gun is like, I'm gonna do my thing.
I'm just gonna sit here and shoot your Grey Hunters,
Yes.
and I'm gonna shoot your Blood Claws, and...
He just kind of popped shots into the infantry to try and soften up the attacks,
Yeah,
really.
the charge that was gonna come into your Turvagon, right?
And the Exocrine is fantastic. He's got a strength 7 gun that's AP2 and does like 2 damage a shot, or AP3, something like that. It's got a 48-inch or 36-inch range, and the thing is he hits on 4s, but if he doesn't move, he hits on 3s. Another benefit is if he doesn't move, his heavy 6 profile goes to a heavy 12,
Eesh.
and that is nutty. Like, really,
Yeah,
really good.
Did you even move him this game?
Nope, not 1 inch. Oh wait, no. There's a chance I might move him towards the end of the game, but I'm pretty happy shooting 12 shots a turn with him. He's such a great piece. And
All right, and there go the Long Fangs.
this is where I was like, well, Brian, let's stop being an idiot and shoot the things that are shooting the big guys.
Yeah, because you took like 5 or 6 damage from the Long Fangs. I'm like, they
Yeah.
did something this turn.
Because
They're so dead.
honestly, the thing is if I were to just take the Long Fangs out turn 1 with the Exocrine, then I don't have to deal with the frag or the crack or frag shots coming
Crack,
from them.
right?
Yeah, the crack shots.
Crack because it cracks armor
Sure. I don't.
if it hits.
Yeah. So I should have, if they would have gone out turn 1, then my Turvagon would have been a little bit more safe, and this is where I'm saying, like, things I could have done in the game to like increase my chances of winning without blaming the dice and just saying, well, the dice are stupid. Because then I can move that Turvagon around that building in the middle, and I don't have to worry about the long things peppering shots. And honestly, your army is not equipped to deal with 2 toughness 8 models.
Not even close. Like,
And-
I had to rely on Smite and Jaws.
Exactly, which didn't treat you that bad.
No, they definitely treated me very well, but the long things weren't getting it done.
No,
Smite is what got it done. Like, the Blood Claws are still in on that Turvagon.
I know there's
We are
like 3 of those stupid things left, and I just can't deal. I just can't cut them down. I don't have the guys to do it, and the Grey Hunters are piling in. You can kind of see there's like this big conga line to bring down the massive Turvagon.
There are 2 units of Grey Hunters into that Turvagon. The ones on the left that were there are fairly still alive.
Yeah, they're at a pretty good strength as far as bodies are concerned.
And then the Grey Hunters that went through the center of the board, I think I lost 2.
The other thing too that's quite frustrating, shooting quality shots into the units, is that the Wolfguard battle leader is pretty legit if you kit him out to have Terminator armor and a storm shield,
Yup.
because you're losing some ranged output, because I believe he switches his gun for the shield.
He loses a Storm Bolter and he gains the Storm Shield.
So being able to just tank shots on him, especially since Terminators across the board are 2 wounds unless you're a character now. I haven't looked at Paladins, but they used to be the ones that had more wounds, but I
I'm
want
not
to
sure.
say they probably still have 2 wounds. I'd be interested to see that, because Grey Knights had Terminators and Paladins, so I wonder what makes them different. But at any rate, I was pumping some quality shots into those units, and the reason why it wasn't doing much is because all these wounds were getting bounced to a Terminator, so I had this red fire in my eyes to just be like, I'm going to throw all these quality shots in that are going to kill the Terminator. But even though I'm like AP 2 or 3, I'm still bouncing him off of 3+ save.
Yeah, and when you did finally get one of the shots through, you rolled a 1 on damage, so
Yeah.
the Terminator got to stay alive on you.
It took a very long time to deal with any of the Terminators. I almost don't
You
think I
killed
killed.
one.
Yeah, I killed
The one that
dude.
was with the Blood Claws,
The ones in the
finally took
bottom.
a damage.
Yeah.
No, the ones that
Oh,
went through
yeah,
the
that's
center
right.
finally took a damage, and he died like last turn.
So now we've got charges from the Grey Hunters going into the Turvagon. So he is marked for death essentially.
I still think he lived through all these.
I don't even remember, but I guess we'll find out, because we didn't preview the video, and I think the video's this game was shot a week ago,
Yeah.
almost exactly a week ago.
Is today Wednesday?
It is.
It was a week ago exactly.
So John and I both just have busy work schedules, so it's hard to get together right after the game's done. But we try to do our best, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Exocrine, as you can see, he did get put to the back of the table, which means that he is now dead in the dead pile. So I think Njal ended up pumping a smite and a bolter.
Jaws.
Oh, Jaws
It
again.
was- yep, you got Jawsed off.
Yeah,
because
because
the
he's
goal
still
was
speed 6 or 5 or
I
something.
think he was speed 5. The goal was to make sure that one of your monstrous creatures died from Jaws, so that
Yeah.
we could reenact 5th edition.
Yeah, that Initiative 2 Turvagon. Poor 5th edition. In War Machine, there's like this colloquial, or not colloquial, it's almost like an unwritten rule that everybody loves to do, is talk about old editions like Mark II. But at least there's a definite portion of people who are just like, Mark II's dead and gone, go fuck yourself and talk about Mark III instead. But in 40k or Warhammer, 40k especially, because now Age of Sigmar is different, right? With 40k, it's almost like nostalgically acceptable, because when you talk about these old editions, everybody's just like, remember how cool or crazy this was? It's like you get to relive your high school days all over again, like the cool ones, not the ones where people made fun of you in the gym locker or anything, but the ones where like you got to skip school and have your first beer in some old abandoned apartment. So talking about those editions, I guess, isn't so bad, but Jaws was the big one. Jaws was just like, Necrons hated it, Tyranids hated it, it was a good time.
Jaws is my Space Wolf memory. That's what I think of. Missile launchers and Jaws.
Yep.
And then Countercharge.
Countercharge was a good one.
It was
You
so
charge
good.
me, I'll still get my +1. That is one of the things that I do think 8th edition has some, like, a little bit of, like, slack on, is that the assault phase, you get the extra distance and everything, and that's cool. But, like, I still feel like there should be more benefits for assaulting, although I think assaulting is actually pretty powerful right now, so there probably doesn't need to be a whole lot about it that changes, but I guess I would just like a little bit more oomph, or a little bit more regularity in the charging or assaulting phase.
Yeah.
Because, like, they fight the same whether they charged or whether they are stuck in, so I don't know, just a pet peeve.
Yeah, that Turvagon did survive that charge.
Yeah, so
And then all of the Blood Claws and the Grey Hunters on the other side.
yeah, we did roll a die to see if the game ended, and the game did. Well, sorry, jumped the gun.
That was Smite.
Yeah, we I think this was where you were in Shadow,
Yep.
also for Smite. So
You did
wasn't-
stop that, I think.
yeah, I think
You stopped Smite, and then I Jaws you.
Yeah,
And then that was the game.
that was the game.
Because I
there, so-
spiked on the Jaws roll.
I think we talked a lot about the what could be done differently to make the game go smoother for me, and the big one was trying to, like, prioritize my targets for my quality attacks. Like the Gene Stealers losing the charge on that big unit might not have been such a big deal if there was a big beastie behind them backing them up. Or maybe even positioning for me. Like I had talked earlier in the video about deployment, and that I wasn't trying to counter anything.
Yeah, you're just doing your own thing.
So I probably could have switched the positioning of the Gene Stealers and the Termagants, so that the Termagants could go and collapse a flank, and then the Gene Stealers could kind of be hidden by the building. So whenever someone talks about dice screwing them in a game, I honestly think you can look at a game and reevaluate your tactics and how you approached it to try and get a better outcome.
Yeah, it's never just the dice. There's always something that you should be able to take away strategically from that game. Like, this is where I messed up, this is where I did well, so on and so forth.
Yeah, no one is the perfect tactician while they're playing.
Yeah.
And when you say that the dice are what screwed you in the game, you're essentially saying, I am the perfect tactician, but the random factor of the game is what made me lose. And I think that's a little elitist and pompous, maybe, and a little presumptuous.
Quite a
That's
bit, yeah.
That's a lot of big words, but that was all 3 Ps too. That was some
Yeah, that was...
some some alliterate. No, elitist was in there, so never mind. But no, I think that the game played well for Space Wolves. They took advantage of a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the misappropriation of resources. So
And Flamer's just so good.
Flamers are really good against small, assaulty armies.
Well, it's in the toughness 4, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's...
Well, Termagants are toughness 3. So you wound on
Yeah,
3s.
I was just thinking of the Gene Stealers again.
Yeah, the Gene Stealers got boned hard. Like, they took a lot of shots. But at the small point games, the swings in dice, when they are above the curve, they do hurt a lot more. So, and that's not trying to confirm the dice screw you from both sides. It's just, I should never have been... I feel like with the charge on those guys, going into them with, what was it?
Needing an 8.
Needing an 8. I think I maybe took a little bit too much of a liberty with the reroll, thinking that I would be able to get it.
And, I mean, your positioning wasn't going to change anyway,
Mm-hmm.
because you were pretty much dedicated to that side.
Yep.
So if you didn't roll a 5 for your advance move,
Mm-hmm.
or your just advance, right?
Yeah, well, I did the advance, and it got me up 13.
Yeah, if you wouldn't have rolled a 5 for that, you wouldn't have been as close as you were anyway.
Yeah. I think it was worth the risk to me just to be able to deny you a full unit like that. But double flamers do hurt. So, I don't know. The psychic powers from your army were big too.
Yeah.
That was a huge boon.
Niall was my MVP by far. So far this edition, Niall's been probably my favorite model I've put on the board.
which is cool. He's one of my favorite characters. I mean, in Space Wolves, they're all my. I think the only one I don't really care for is Ragnar because he's like the poster boy for Space Wolves, even though it really should be Logan.
Well, he's the
And
poster boy because he's a next generation Space Wolf.
I know he's like the next king. Like I know that I love reading the omnibus. Like if there's any series to read in this game that are going to be awesome, it's the Space Wolf
It really
omnibuses.
is. It's a great set of books.
Omnibus.
Omnibuy.
I also don't like Crom so much because I don't know him very well. Like I don't know his background or anything.
Yeah, I don't know where he came from. Was he in 5th?
He was not. He didn't come until the Stormclaw assault box.
Ah.
So, and I don't even think he was a named model back then. He was just a random doofus with a dragon eye.
Huh.
But I'm not 100% sure on that. But I do miss the little blurbs they had in the codexes that explained like who they were and what
where
they
came
were
from and what they did.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get those in the regular codexes that are going to release, but
I'm actually excited. There's a 7th edition and a 6th edition Space Wolf Codex.
yeah.
I'm going to get to pick those up and read them now.
You know what? No, there is no 7th edition Space Wolves Codex. It only was in 6th that it hit. So they had like the one with the cool artwork of the Wolfen on the front, and the collector's edition was really cool.
I still look forward to picking them up because the Space Wolf fluff is just
the best in the game.
It's good.
I mean, one of the other conversations I see a lot are people asking, where can I find all the Tyranid fluff? And it's like, well, it's kind of garbage because it's all being said from the perspective of other people. Like, you look at the names of the Tyranids and they do look more alien-y, but that's just because that's what the Imperium has named them. Like, to Dark Eldar, a Turvagon might not be a Turvagon. It might be the fat one with the bulgy things, you know, like who knows? Like they name them themselves.
The fat one with the massive ball sacks.
Yep. Well, I hope you enjoyed this battle report, and we're trying the dual commentator format and see how that works. So if you have any like questions or comments, you can leave them on YouTube or you can hit me up on Facebook or whatever. But I think that concludes this one for us, and I look forward to the next one we make for you.
Yeah, it was fun.